time, I would like to call to order the Board of Supervisors meeting for the first meeting of 2023. We'll note that all 7 members of the Board of Supervisors are present. This time, I'll ask you to stand as able for the invocation presented by Pastor Roger Krieger of the Speedway Pentecostal Holiness Church, and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I do appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. It's been since last year sometime. But, and as you know, as many of you have been picking at us, we have had a change to the Speedville area. So pray for us, because now we have to contend with Gene Horney. But anyway, we look forward to that. But we appreciate you guys for all you really do, the time you put in it. I know you're not appreciated near as much as you need to be, but I say thank you for that. I promise I won't be but a minute. But a week ago today, or actually 8 days from today, history was made in America over what I'm getting ready to do, and that is have prayer. You all very well know in a very contentious pro football game last Monday night around 9 o'clock that Damar Hamlin took a hit and collapsed on the field. For about 9 minutes, they didn't know if the boy was going to make it or not. With the CPR and defibrillator, they claimed really is what saved his life. He got relocated, I think, to Buffalo today. He's excited. He's operating in full capacity. Because what I want you to notice just for a second, they claim that over 13 million people was viewing that game that night, and in a moment of time, to where they thought they were going to go to an exciting playoff football game, ended up in reality going to an old-fashioned prayer meeting. They took a knee and prayed, no questions asked, nothing said. But that night, millions took a knee and took it in prayer. It just let me know that prayer really does work. Prayer brings miracles, and I'm honored to even pray here tonight as we begin 2023. Let's pray. Father, we're forever grateful for your many, many blessings upon all of us. We thank you for your blessings upon Wythe County and for the leaders that we have in position, dear Father, that is here before us tonight. And we just pray your many blessings upon them. I know that none of them take it lightly. We pray, God, that you'll give them wisdom and guidance and direction in everything that they say and do, and help them in their planning and their preparation, that they can work together to accomplish things that will bring not only vibrant growth to the community, but will bring glory and honor unto you. Bless our time together tonight, and just be with them in a great and a mighty way. And Father, we promise when it's all said and done, we'll give you praise for it. But we humbly ask it in Jesus' name. Amen. Of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to thank all the members of the Board of Supervisors for their service last year, and Chairman Vaught and Vice Chair Lawson, thank you for your time as leadership last year. At this time, the first order of business is the election of chair for 2023. I will open the floor for nominations for the election of chair.
Make a motion to nominate Mr. Brian Vaught for chairman.
I have a motion for Mr. Brian Vaught. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, vote on the nomination order received. All in favor of Mr. Vaught electing as chairman for 2023, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
I'll abstain.
Mr. Vaught, I'll turn the meeting back over to you.
Thank you. I hate Pastor Krieger left. I wanted to thank him. It was a very good speech to start 2023. I appreciate the confidence from the other board members, and I hope this is a great year. And with that being said, I'll shut up and I'll open the floor for nominations for vice chair.
Mr. Chairman, I've had the opportunity to do it for a couple of years, and I'm no longer interested. Therefore, I would like to nominate Mr. Cook.
All
Cook. Do we have any other nominations? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to elect Mr. Cook the vice chair for 2023 by acclamation.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Smith. Do I have a second? Second. Have a second by Mr. Horny. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, congratulations, Mr. Cook. And I would like to take a minute to thank Ms. Lawson for her service over the years. Mr. Cook, brush up on your reading skills. We've got some sports resolutions coming up, and I will be happy to share that, duty, Mr. Cook.
You know, I would be more than happy, but I saw the job you did at the Welcome Center with the town over the Memorial Day thing, and you did such a good job.
All right, next item on our agenda is our meeting calendar for 2023. We had a calendar presented back December the 27th, but we have a proposed revision on January the 10th that we received earlier in our board package. So I assume we can just go ahead and vote on those revisions.
I would recommend Ms. Collins was able to determine the VACO conference will interfere with the November 14th meeting, and then also made a very good recommendation to move the December 26th meeting to Wednesday, December 27th, if that's acceptable for everyone.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the meeting calendar revision.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Terry. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Ms. Lawson. Is there any questions or discussion on the meeting calendar? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The meeting calendar is now set. Next item on our agenda is an update to our electronic meeting policy. Mr. Barrett provided that in our board package to coincide with updates to the Code of Virginia. I'll entertain a motion to approve that update. So moved. Have a motion by Mr. Horny. Do I have a second? Have a second by Vice Chair Cook. Is there any questions or discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So approved. Then we'll move on to our rules of procedure for 2023. We've had that for a couple months. I've not received any proposed changes. I don't believe Mr. Barrett has, except for the ones that were included in our board package. And does anybody have any questions on those?
Mr. Chairman, if I might, I would request that you all do make one change with a change in the meeting calendar. We'll change section 4.2 with the exceptions that the second regular meeting in June shall be held on June 30th, 2023. That was in there. We will add that the November meeting will be on Wednesday, November 15th, and the December second meeting will be on Wednesday, December 22nd. To match up to the calendar that you all just changed. So if you all will adopt it as revised, I would appreciate it.
I'll entertain a motion to adopt as revised.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Smith. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Burnett. Is there any questions or discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So approved. All right. Next item on our agenda is citizens' time. As always, I'll call you up. You have 3 minutes. The first person we have signed up is Mr. Jerry Blevins.
My domestic tourist support for this reporting period is much improved over previous ones. The only thing messed with was my printer, and that occurred on January 9th this year at 1 p.m. and they formally changed the printer counter number, which goes to show I was still under surveillance, so they wasn't even knowing I was on the printer. In honor of Police Appreciation yesterday, I would like to relate an event which the police were involved in my life. On May 2nd, 2017, I went to Winston-Salem to see a dentist by the name of Dr. John Pruitt to be evaluated for full implant dentures. As I neared Dr. Pruitt's office, I noticed Winston-Salem police cars everywhere, and every time they would see me, they would dart into an alley or driveway. Dr. Pruitt recommended an oral surgeon by the name of Dr. Wallace to do the work and made me an appointment on the same day to see him. As I was going to see Dr. Wallace once again, I noticed Winston-Salem police officers everywhere, and one of them got behind me and turned his blue lights, but instead of stopping me, he continued on through a red light. Dr. Waller removed my teeth in 2 appointments, and the first appointment went fine. But the second appointment, I discovered an entirely different Dr. Waller. This time he appeared disorientated and his right arm was shaking like a leaf in a breeze. He asked me what I was there for. Shocked, I replied to remove 17 teeth. Dr. Waller did remove the teeth, but used a lot more local anesthesia than was necessary, which resulted in a lot more pain than was necessary and left me with abnormal sensation that has lasted to this day. I made an appointment with Dr. Waller to discuss the problem, but he failed to show. I went back to Dr. Pruitt and found a Forsyth County deputy at his office watching me very closely. And Dr. Pruitt said the abnormal sensation problem could delay the implants. But Dr. Pruitt still made a new appointment with Dr. Walter, who said he wasn't sure what was causing the sensation problem, but he still made me a new appointment to place the implants, which he did, causing a lot of pain and expanding the abnormal sensation to the upper gums as well. Since it's a well-established rule that no dental work is done if there are any problems with the mouth or gums, I ended my relationship with Dr. Walter. But as you can see, the police were with me all along. I'd also like to thank Moscow, Idaho police for their outstanding job in solving the Fort College murders. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blevins. Next person we have signed up to speak is Ms. Linda Myers. Ms. Myers?
Yes, good evening. I have passed out some information to you concerning a volunteer group that we have here in Wythe County, the Backcountry Horsemen of Virginia. We work with the Forest Service to take care of our recreational, quote, wellness trails here within our county and some of our surrounding counties also. Over the last couple of years, we have done a great deal of volunteer work out there to make our trails safer and multi-use available. So this past fall, we were given the Regional Foresters Honor Award from the National Forest Service for all the work we do and have done and the work we are promoting in the future. Currently, starting this year, we hope to be able to redo a section of trail, 8.5 miles of trail from Route 21 all the way to Hales Lake. And this is an old roadway that used to connect the communities and so on. It has been washed out and is in great need of sustainable redoing. And that's what the plan is for this year. We have put in for some grants for over $75,000. We have been able to do fundraising, which has been a really, really great help. So I wanted to make you aware of our organization and what we do. The information is here. And if there is any chance of you or any of you find out that there are possible grants available, if you could contact me or anybody that is listed in here, and we can hopefully pursue them for the benefit, wellness of all residents in Wythe County and our surrounding area. Our trail systems bring in hundreds and hundreds of people a year who spend money and enjoy our area. And we need to make sure that our resources are available and are safe for everybody. Okay, that's one thing. The signage seems to have disappeared from Lover's Lane. I had some people call and they were like, it's gone. And I was curious about that, if you have any ideas about what's cooking with the signage on Lover's Lane. Also, I was wondering if Wythe County has a list of legislative priorities other than the VACO list. In the past, VACO has been very, let's say, left-leaning and so on. And I was wondering if you had gone through their legislative priorities list, and if Wythe County has their own, that you were going to, in fact, send to our legislators and hope they do some enacting of those things. Let's see. Okay, the other point is, we're putting broadband all over the place. I just recently found out that Camp, which is in Smith County at the other end of my road, 3 miles away, all of a sudden has fiber optic broadband. It's called Point Broadband, and they've had it for a few months, and I was wondering if that group is going to end up coming into Wythe County, or we are dealing with them here, because there's a lot of people in Wythe County, and specifically at our end, that Bright Star is just not living up to its potential. And of course, we have huge rate increases too with Bright Star since last year. They've probably gone up more than 10% everywhere, and we're not getting service. So, some questions. So I hope you enjoy this. If anybody has any questions, and certainly if you come across any grants or anything that would be available for the wellness recreation community, if you could let us know so we can pursue them. I also gave Mr. Hankins the latest grant proposal that we wrote up. So you'll see we are a 501c3. All the information is there for the 8.5 mile grant. And we're hoping that comes to fruition this year, and we'll be starting to work on it this fall. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. That's all we have signed up for citizens' time, so I'll close citizens' time. Before we move on, Ms. Myers, Point Broadband is actually the company that is doing the project in Wythe County.
Oh, okay.
So it's,
coming?
yeah, it's, but, and I don't remember, 2 or 3, 4 months ago, we had an update, and and I'll let Mr. Hankins speak to it, but I don't know that there's any rhyme or reason of how they're pulling the wire and turning the switch. They're not really going by community to community the way I understand it, so apparently they know what they're doing, but that's the same company that is over in Sugar Grove or Smith County Camp, all that, so.
And Mr. Vaught, they do intend to finish the Speedwell district this quarter, so by the end of March, they're expecting to have Speedwell done, as long as they don't encounter many issues with easements.
All right, next item on the agenda is our payment of invoices. Each board member's received a invoice package, or invoices in your board package. I'll entertain a motion to approve the invoices.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Terry. Do I have a second? Second. Have a second by Mr. Smith. Is there any invoice that any board member wants to pull out and or discuss? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Cook?
Aye.
Aye. So approved. Next item on our agenda is the minutes of our previous meeting from December the 27th, 2022. I'll entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Burnett. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Morty. Is there any corrections to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? So approved. Move on to old business. First item is our real estate tax bill update. We have Ms. Gwen, Mr. Barrett. I'm not sure who wants to go first.
I'll go ahead and let Ms. Gwen come up and speak. Todd's there to support as well, so.
He's probably been more involved in getting it to the point that we are now than what I have been, so,
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you will, if you'll talk a little bit of the point we're at right now, and Todd can fill in, but he's also gonna talk about the long-term implications
Okay.
of what they're doing.
okay. First off, I will say, Commissioner Vaught lost her dad this afternoon, so all of you all keep her in your thoughts and prayers. So she's gonna be out for a few days, but, it's, a tough loss, as we all know. As far as real estate bills are concerned, the file, I'm gonna call it in limbo right now. It is sort of between the commissioner's office and our office. We, with the help of Todd, he had been able to get, the Munis folks to, import our escrow codes into the 2022 file. There's different versions, but it's called the working file. So our escrow codes were imported in, and when I'm referring to escrow codes, it's probably about 4,000 codes that the last 5 years, 6 years, however long it's been, we key those in every year because we entirely lose that data. So this time around, Todd worked with the Munis folks to get those imported in. My office right now, we're working to get changes made to those. Once we can get all those changes made, then we'll be ready to proceed. We're kind of in a little bit of back and forth between the Treasurer's Office and Commissioner's Office right now. So to kind of bring you up to speed, I had to make a cheat note, or cheat list, so I would know where we were at. We have the train environment, as you've heard us refer to before, and then we have the live environment. Train, you can do anything in, you can blow it up, tear it up, do whatever you want to do. It doesn't affect anything. So I run everything through the train side before I run everything in live, and that's mainly to make sure my totals match, make sure there's no issues, that everything as far as reports that I can see when I'm processing the file is the same as the totals that the Commissioner's Office has. So right now, through train, I have done what we call generate AR, which has actually produced the dollar amounts for the bills, and also posted age and veterans credits that folks receive, and done a test post on our prepayments. There are a few what I'll call errors, but it's normal errors in the process of things, of how when taxpayers receive these credits and they're entered in by the Commissioner's Office, it's how the system automatically posts those to the tax account that we have to make some adjustments there. But it's just normal. It's not anything to be of concern about. It's just normal things that have to be taken care of. So as we progress on, I'll work with Ms. Vaught to get a few of those things resolved before we do all of this in live, and then we'll have to make a few corrections after I get to that same point on the live side of the system. So with that, again, we have to finish entering in our escrow codes into live, then I can generate AR, I can post our tax credits, and then at that point, post prepays. We'll move overpayments around between accounts. Anyone that overpaid personal property, we'll move that balance to real estate. If a real estate bill is overpaid, we'll move it to another real estate bill, things like that, to be able to refund any overages that we have. So with all of that going on, that is more or less where we are leading up to being able to eventually pull a bill file to bill out. I will say some of these processes that I'm telling you about from our side of the process has to be done after hours when there's no one in the tax system. So a lot of the things I do after 5 o'clock, just because it takes several hours for some of the things to run. So for example, exporting the bill file, I usually start it by about 6:30 of the evenings, and most of the time it's completely finished generating by the time I come back in the next morning. So that adds a little bit of delay through the process, but it's simply because we can't have anyone in the tax system messing, making changes, doing anything, posting payments, things like that, when some of these steps are being completed, because it will throw everything off. I had an ultimate goal of being able to pull the bill file by Monday, because since Monday was a holiday, and working through some things over the weekend, I felt like we would be able to get it pulled. Due to the loss in Mrs. Vaught's family, we're gonna now be delayed a little bit because of needing to get some of these other things resolved that she'll need to work on. So I'm still hopeful that maybe by about, well, it depends on how long she's out. I really don't expect her back till next week. So I'm hoping that by the middle to the end of next week for sure now, which is a change in my original timeline that I had hoped for, that we should be able to pull a bill file. So that's kind of where we stand from that standpoint, but some of the things that we're encountering right now are just normal things. They're not the things that have come up before that IT and the Commissioner's Office have had to work on. So that's kind of where we are with that, but just, I didn't make myself clear, or if someone has a question, I'll be glad to further address anything on that aspect.
Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Dean? Are we still looking at the date later on this month, that we can get them sent out?
To send bills out? I'm hopeful now that at least by the end of next week would be my new goal date to be able to get everything out, because we'll have escrows finished, I'll have everything ready, and that way when, Mrs. Vault returns back to the office, then she and I can pick up with the back and forth that we need to do, and then be able to get everything processed through to get that file pulled, so. And then once it goes to the printers, I will add, generally, there's about, I'll say a week's time frame, and it depends on when that file is sent out, but normally we're looking at about, from the time I send the file out until they, are ready to mail those bills, it's usually about a 5-day window, but I alerted them today that, I would be looking at sending the file either late part of the weekend or early part of next week. So they're ready for my file, they're waiting, everything's ready as long as everything pulls as it should, which I don't think there's gonna be any hiccups of anything there, but, so even if I pull the file the end of next week, at the latest, we're looking at possibly the end of the week after before bills will be back in the county. So then,
The due date, still be good?
well, still will put us about a month out, maybe about 35 days, something like that, Mr. Cook. I'm not sure how the days work out on the calendar. As we talked about a little bit the other day in the budget meeting, I'm not sure if that's something that you all want to look at extending out a little bit further, or if you want to leave it as is. That may be something we need to look at. Well, I don't know that you'll have your next meeting before the file goes out. I'm not sure how the schedule works
Yeah,
out.
and I was saying, if you have them out by next week.
Yeah, if I pull the file next week, your meeting won't be till the Tuesday after that, so, that would be up to you all if you want to extend that out past March the 3rd, kind of based on what our new timeline is.
Well, I guess the question I have, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I guess the question I have is the same question we had in the budget committee. Is it gonna be the same amount of time that we normally allow the citizens to pay?
Usually bills are out around mid-October with a due date of December the 5th, so usually, we're on at least a 45-day window there, going out in end of next week. Mr. Bayer, Ms. Collins, someone that has a calendar, I'm not sure where that puts us.
If they're out by, if you get the files in by the 20th, and then that would be out on the 27th. You basically have 5 weeks.
Yeah, it puts you 30, 35 days.
And what are the negatives to extending it?
No more negative than we've already had thus far is gonna be my opinion on it. It changes, when we would, of course, send out late notices and things like that. If you choose to extend, I would say extend to no later than, the end of March. That would allow, not quite a whole nother month, but kind of keep it maybe at the end of the month, because, April 1st, which is gonna fall a little odd this year because of our due date being in March. April 1st, I have to notify every taxpayer that participates in the land use program that has unpaid taxes, that their taxes are unpaid. So we're gonna be on a whole different dynamic with that at this point, because those folks have to have those taxes paid by June the 1st, or they lose land use for the following year. So they would lose it for 2023.
What about,
So, even if we extend out to the end of March, late notices would need to go out. I would probably send those out. I'm not sure if I probably wouldn't send them in May. I'd probably wait till June 1st to send late notices, outside of notifying those particular taxpayers that have land use that they need to have that tax paid by June 1st.
March
But-
31st is a Friday.
That sounds good to me.
will that give you enough time to do what you need to the land use tax?
Yeah, we can easily pull that file, even if it's, a few days after April the 1st. It's not going to be that big of a hiccup, because they'll still have 2 months to pay. So I usually send the first notice, and then, about the first week of May, I try to get a second notice out if folks still haven't paid that are in land use, to make sure they are aware, if they don't get it paid, that they will lose that. But I don't think it's gonna be any more odd than what we've already experienced thus far.
I'll make a motion, we extend it to March 31st.
I'll second.
All right, have a motion and a second to extend the due date for the real estate taxes to March 31st, 2023. Is there any questions or discussion on that motion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
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 Aye. So approved. And just to clarify on the land use thing, those dates are set by the code, correct?
They are,
Okay.
yes.
That's nothing that we can change, okay.
No, that's set by Code of Virginia.
I thought that was correct, but I
Yeah.
just wanted to. All right, anybody else have anything for Ms. Gwen?
Thank you.
Thank you. One other thing while I think about it, we're getting phone calls, people are already looking for their rebates, we're still processing mail. So just to give you an update on that, we, are on the mail that came in around the 27th and 28th, which is postmarked around the 23rd, 24th, is pretty much the dates that we're at on postmark. Mr. Vaught, we're not to, payment box payments yet, so you're still safe there. And, so we're trying to get through the mail, get all of that done so that we can get an accurate list of, who did technically pay their personal property before December 30th, because we're tracking mail payments entirely different than we are folks coming in, as far as walk-in payments and over-the-phone payments right now. So, it's probably going to be at least February before rebate checks will start going out. And I know you all had said January, and we're doing everything we can, but it's just the way that it is. And I apologize for that, but again, it's just the way that it is at this point, so.
I'm just gonna tell you on them Dropbox payments, you know, I got a short memory. And I'm gonna forget that's hanging out there, and I'm gonna go buy a new gun, cause I think I'm gonna have extra money in the bank. So that's on you, that ain't on me.
Folks have a tendency to do something of that nature or put stop payments on checks, but we're, you know, we're in pretty good shape considering, but as we discussed in the budget meeting the other day, which I know not everyone was in there, but it has been different for us having the split due dates and sending personal property out and really having all of that out and the due date over with before real estate's going out. So it's helped us to better keep a handle on all of that, other than the fact of the week of Christmas and the last week of December. We didn't touch a piece of mail other than when the mail guy brought it to us and we said thank you and moved it to our tray to get worked. That pretty much was the extent of that. So we're trying to get caught up now. We were closed yesterday, but we worked on trying to get things caught up because Mrs. Williams would love to close out December on the financials, and we needed to get caught up. So we're,
For
thank you.
clarification, you said you were closed yesterday, but restate what you mean by that.
Well, close to the public. We still worked. We were still there. We were still working. We were just closed to the public, no phone calls, no one being able to come in. But it did help us to get a lot caught up. We've joked that another day or two we would be able to do that, but it's kind of slowed down a little bit that we're able to get some more things accomplished right now. So, but yeah, we were there. We weren't closed. We were there.
And one thing before you sit down, we discussed this a little bit, in the budget committee meeting the other day, and, you know, for the, I guess, going on 6 years that I've been on the board, one thing we continue to hear is December the 5th is a horrible time for taxes for the board. You know, Christmas is coming up, you know, all that. So I'd like for us to look at maybe changing the due date, either on real estate and personal property, or maybe just real estate. We discussed that the other day. There's certainly not a magic date, that's good for everybody, but, I mean, that's my opinion is I'd like to get away from Christmas if possible, more, and I think we talked about if we separate the due dates, it may alleviate some of the backlog of trying to go through the mail and drop box payments and, you know, give them a little chance to get caught up before the next rush. And there's some people that, you know, prefer to write one check and be done with it.
Yes.
You know, so
We heard a lot
we
of
can't please everybody, I understand that, but I think the citizens, do live paycheck to paycheck, would, appreciate if we could get away from Christmas.
I agree, and I think this year would be a good year to do that.
And
since,
that's, yeah, I mean.
You
And
know, they pay March 31st and turn right back around.
A lot of
December.
localities have gone, of course, the twice-year billing on real estate, which in my mind, I can't justify having double the expense of sending out real estate bills, but the splitting of real estate and personal property due date, I think, would be good. Some localities have gone to May and November, and others have gone to June and December if they've split their dates. That's kind of the consensus. A few localities have April, September, but not very many. It's kind of in that time frame there. But also, keep in mind of when the commissioner's office can get the books prepared and things like that, because, in changing the cycle right now, I will say for that office, they try to have everything ready by about early August is normally when we start the process of them closing the books out, and we start our back and forth processing of the tax file to get it out in October. So, be sure you take into account that office as well, as far as being able to prepare, whether it's the personal property book or the real estate book, that they have sufficient time. And it may be something that I'm not sure about for 2023 necessarily, but just kind of throwing that out there of what I'm familiar with from that office, of how it filters over to us.
And I think moving forward, if we have Mr. Bear work with Ms. Gwynn and Ms. Ball, and maybe get some ideas of dates. I don't like that November date. Lord, as high as things are in the grocery store.
Everyone says go with November because you get their money before they spend it on Black Friday.
There won't be no Thanksgiving. As high as things are in the grocery store, there won't be no Thanksgiving dinner.
It's Black Friday every day if you go to the grocery store now. There's no deals. It's just a Black Friday because it's costing you so much. So, but yeah, I would definitely be open to splitting the due dates. It would help with the workload. And as I mentioned in committee meeting the other day, there's a few things we're working on that will also help alleviate a lot of workload, not just for my department, but for water department and others as they come on board that accept payments as well. So I'll be bringing all of that back for approval as well. So
Thank
and
you.
that's all I have.
Thank you. Todd, do you have anything?
I was just gonna say, Ms. Gwynn hit on all the good stuff. To get to where we are, we had to work with both vendors to do some manual processes, some script writing to get the data where we needed it to go. What I'm working on right now is next year, so we don't have to do this again. We're actively engaged again with both vendors to take these scripts that we use and incorporate them into the import process. So it's one thing and, one and done. And we don't have this issue again, so that's what we're working on in IT right now.
Well, thank you and Josh and Melissa, because I know y'all put a lot of time and effort into it.
Yeah, it's been a group effort between the commissioner, the treasurer, the IT office. There's been a lot of work put in. Thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
questions?
Thank you for everything.
All right, move on to the Gleaves Road Bridge update, Mr. Baird.
Yes, I emailed that to you all, for informational purposes. Basically, there weren't any real changes with it. I'll keep y'all informed of that as we go forward. And, if it gets delayed or anything, we'll call VDOT to come back in before us.
So am I reading that right, that they're gonna try to acquire the property outside the bridge, and that's what
Their
that's what
goal
they
is to,
decided?
their long-term goal is to acquire property and put up a new bridge. They are still looking at repair options, to see if they can get at least what's there back in order until they can get a new bridge constructed. That's where they are.
All right, thank you, Mr. Baird. Do we have anything else under old business?
I do not have anything, Mr. Chairman, no.
All right, move on to new business. We have the Route 94 water main replacement. We have an engineering agreement in our package.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, with the funds that are available for the line replacement, this does not involve rural development, DHCD, or any other funding agency. This project should be able to move quickly. Would request your all's approval of this engineering agreement to get this process started.
Right, entertain a motion to approve the engineering agreement for the Route 94 water project.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Burnett. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Smith. Is there any questions or discussion on the agreement? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Cook?
Aye.
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 So approved. Next item we have is our health department agreement.
We have an annual agreement every year we must approve with them. This has the correct dollar amounts based on our budget. Recommend approval of the health department agreement.
All right, entertain a motion to approve the health department agreement as presented.
So moved.
Have a motion by Ms. Lawson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Horning. Is there any question or discussion on that?
I'd like to see them use some of that money to fix the sewer problem out there on Cox Trailer Park Road.
Yeah, I agree with that. Is there any more questions or discussion on that? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote for Mr. Terry.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
So approved. Next item is appointments. How do you want to do this, Mr. Dare?
There are a couple of committees, that will be meeting. Buildings and Grounds Committee is scheduled for next week, and, Water and Wastewater are scheduled for next week. If you would like to appoint those committees, we can meet. If not, we can look at postponing those meetings until it was set up.
As far as the chair appointed committees, does anybody have any problem with their committee assignments?
No, sir. I'd rather keep them the same.
So as far as the chair appointed committees, I'll reappoint everybody to the same committees they were on in 2022. I'll also reappoint the chair appointed liaisons back to the same positions. I can knock that out real quick.
That's great. I would request on the other, I would request that you go ahead and reappoint all the members to the Insurance Committee, which is Bear, Klein, Collins, Gwynn, Ayers, Poole, Vaught, and Hankins.
I noticed Mr. Hankins got slid in there somehow. Congratulations.
This is my second year serving on the committee, Mr. Chairman, and I don't think I've been to a meeting yet.
All right, I will entertain a motion to reappoint all the members of the Insurance Committee. So moved. Have a motion by Mr. Horning. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Terry. Is there any questions, discussion, or anybody wants to take my place? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations. Our JIDA, I know we had,
Both of our members there are not eligible for reappointment. They do not meet until the last week of this month. I would request that we have appointments at the next meeting. I was waiting to see if y'all have any. I've got some names and some names I've asked around that I'd be willing to send to all of you all if there's not any recommendations that you all currently have for your consideration for the next meeting.
and is it 2 4-year terms or
Yes.
3?
2. We have another one that's on another stagger.
I know we have Mr. Morgan in attendance, and he's not eligible for reappointment, but thank you for your service over the years.
I would request that you appoint the JPSA members. They have a meeting next week, and their new operations manager back there would be glad for you to have 2 new members to fill that in, or 2 members to fill that in. Mr. Horny and Ms. Lawson are currently in those positions, are eligible for reappointment, however you all wish to proceed. You're still on.
Just want to make sure.
I was going to say, there's 3 of us on there. Where'd the third one go? Did we
There's a
just?
staggered terms.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought I just got kicked out.
This is only ones that ended
Okay.
December 3rd. This is not all members that are on.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to reappoint Mr. Horn and Ms. Lawson to JPSA Authority.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Terry, to have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Cook. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations. Anything else we need to take care of tonight?
The jail will be meeting, and I would recommend that you and Mr. Hankins, be reappointed for both of those positions.
I bet you would.
I will make that motion.
Have a motion by Mr. Horny. Do I have a second? Thanks. Have a second by Mr. Cook. I was trying to let that die. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Not you, Mr. Hankins.
The With Grayson Library will, I believe, have a meeting before our next, one. I don't know if Mr. Terry is interested in continuing to serve on that board, but.
Yes, sir.
I
Well,
would
let's
recommend
find
that.
out. I'll open the floor up for motion to reappoint Mr. Terry.
So,
Have a motion by Mr. Smith. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Horny. All in favor of reappointing Mr. Terry, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations.
Thanks, sir.
And I believe that is all of the critical ones for the timing currently, Mr. Chairman. The only other one would be the District 3 Governmental Cooperative, which I know that you serve on, and Mr. Cook is an alternate on, which I don't think he's had to be called for service on that one, but I do know that they meet the third Thursday of odd months, so I assume having an appointment on that one would be good.
I'll entertain a motion to reappoint myself and Mr. Cook as an alternate to District 3.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I actually like serving in that one, so I don't want to do it. And we also, on the airport commission, is, Annie B, is she eligible, or is there a limit on that?
Usually that's the limit on that one, and I have understood that maybe today Mr. Collins may have talked to someone from the airport about that, so I would hold that one for the next meeting, but I do think we need a replacement on that one. And
I was
I'll reach
thinking,
out.
because I know she's been on there for a long time.
Typically, those that are with Phil that we've got, some of those have limited 2 terms.
So, I'm sorry,
You'll go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, the Mount Rogers, committee, Service Board Committee, the way they do their meetings is a conflict with my schedule at work. So I'm unable to attend those meetings.
They meet the 4th Monday at 1 p.m., so it would need to be someone that can work that into their schedule, which I know is difficult.
Like somebody retired.
No.
You don't have but one vote.
I just have to report back I'm unable to attend. I already got me coming in at 8 o'clock.
Well, this is at 1. Anybody that can serve on that, we'll leave that in there and, see if we can find the volunteers.
But other than that, if you want to save the rest for the next meeting, Mr. Chairman, that would be fine. I think that's the ones that have the meetings that I'm aware of.
Ms. Collins, will you update that list and send us a list of which ones we need to look at? All right, anything else under appointments? We'll move on to air pack proposals from Mr. Hankins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Both of these items are procurement items. I'll do the easy one first so I can warm up. We put out a request for proposals for air packs for the Speedwell Volunteer Fire Department. You all have been aware of that. We're trying to get a $50,000 grant from Rural Development to support that. I talked to Chief Whitlow last week, and 11 out of their original 20 packs are still serviceable. So they're getting close to the point where they wouldn't be able to send enough into the fire and have enough in reserve to be able to go in and get them if there was an emergency. So the unfortunate part is we only received one response back, and it did not meet all of the criteria that we had set forward in the advertisement. So we ask that you reject reject the one that we received and authorize us to put out another solicitation for those air packs.
All right, entertain the motion to reject all responses and authorize staff to re-advertise the air pack bid.
I will make that as a motion, because if I understand it right, they actually lost another air pack.
And can't get parts and can't fix them.
All right, have a motion by Mr. Horn. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Ms. Lawson. Is there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? So approved. Next, we have the Apex Ice Equipment proposals.
Yes, this is an unusual solicitation, but it's a good one, I think, in terms of the benefit that we get. So we hired CJL Engineering to do the design work for the ice rink and the support spaces at the Apex Center in anticipation of the ice hockey team coming later this year. They have gone directly to manufacturers and solicited bids. We placed it on the eVirginia procurement website, so we are compliant with our procurement requirements. They received those bids back on Friday, and I have a summary here of what they received. The first piece is the chiller. They solicited bids from Trane and from Carrier. Carrier was 50 weeks out. That does not meet our timeline, but Trane was able to say that they can do it within 30 weeks, and so they submitted a price of $156,160. I reviewed that with their Buildings and Grounds interim superintendent, so he has indicated that that's within current market. So the recommendation is that you accept that piece of equipment or accept that bid. The next one is the packaged fluid cooler. They solicited 4 suppliers. They only received one bid back, but that's from the dominant company in that industry, Baltimore Air Coil. Mr. Burnett, you may be familiar with some of these manufacturers and names. We would have expected some participation from other suppliers, but there are a lot that are outside of that 30-week window that we needed in order to get this project done on time. But again, Baltimore Air Coil is the leader in this type of equipment, and they bid $190,520, which includes the equipment, a 2-year warranty, and the freight to the site. And the engineer's recommendation is to accept that. The dehumidification unit is the biggest expense of all these. The recommended piece of equipment is $497,000. 2 bids were received, but the lowest bidder had a 50-week lead time that does not meet our schedule. The other supplier, DST, has a 30-week lead time. This, though, is one larger dehumidification unit. The original design called for 2 smaller units, so there was some redundancy. The unit that was priced here represents some significant savings, and it's a unit that can do more than double the air capacity of the 2 smaller units. So there's some operational efficiency that comes with this, along with some savings of over $250,000 for doing 2 smaller units. So the engineer says they have no problem in working around the design with the single unit that's larger capacity. And again, the recommended cost on that is $497,000. And then to make up air units, they solicited 4 suppliers. They got bids back from 2. The low bid was $36,000. The high bid was $111,000. So the engineer recommends going with $36,000 bid. which brings the total equipment cost of $879,680 for the equipment for making the ice and handling the climate there in the space. Again, we did achieve some savings by going directly to the manufacturers for these pieces of equipment. So the pieces of equipment will be shipped from the manufacturer once they're complete to the job site, where all the general contractor has to do is prepare the space and do the installation. So, this is probably the most cost-efficient way of doing it. Staff recommends proceeding with the equipment purchases as recommended by the engineer, and ask that you take 3 actions on this. Authorize the contractor to finalize the design using the equipment that's been bid and recommended. Secondly, to amend and appropriate the funds to the Apex construction budget in the amount of $879,680, and authorize the county administrator to issue purchase orders for the equipment. I'll be glad to answer any questions you have.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Hankins?
If we have 700,000 already, in what they will basically wait for it, so far it's like 170%.
And the easiest thing, Mr. Hankins' recommendation is to amend and appropriate this amount into that budget line.
Does anybody else have any questions for Mr. Hankins? All right, I'll entertain a motion to authorize the contractor to finalize the design using the equipment as specified.
So moved.
Have a motion by Ms. Lawson, do I have a second? Second. Have a second by Mr. Cook. Is there any question or discussion on that motion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
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 So approved. Then I'll entertain a motion to amend and appropriate the funds for the Apex construction budget as specified. So we have a motion by Mr. Horning, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Ms. Lawson. Is there any questions or discussion on that recommendation, or that motion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Cook? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So approved. Next item is I'll entertain a motion to authorize the county administrator to issue the purchase orders for the equipment specified in Mr. Hankins' report. So moved. Have a motion by Mr. Cook, do I have a second? Second. Have a second by Mr. Burnett. Is there any question or discussion on that? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry? Aye. So approved. Anything else on that, Mr. Hankins?
Just as a reminder, we anticipate we'll have design for you to look at prior to the next meeting. I met with the architect this morning to try to finalize a few details, but they expect that they'll be giving that to us so you can look at that prior to your next meeting.
Do we have anything else under new business?
Mr. Chairman, I handed out a letter to you. I've been meeting this week, with engineers and consultants and others on, our projects. Would like to have you all to endorse this letter that basically says Bliss County Board of Supervisors wholeheartedly supports the New River Regional Water Authority's funding application to the U.S. Economic Development Administration for the 2 million gallon day expansion of its water treatment plant. Bliss County partnered with Carroll County and the town of Whitfield almost 20 years ago to create the New River Regional Water Authority and design and build a 4 million gallon treatment plant in Austinville to serve our communities with the vision of the plant that expandable in 2 million gallon a day increments to meet economic development needs of our respective areas. The water demand of the Blue Star project requires the expansion of the existing plant. And we just request your all's authorization to send that letter. We have a $3 million grant application in for the New River Regional Water Authority, and they are looking for letters of support.
Do we need to take action, or can we just do it by consensus?
I'm fine with doing it by consensus.
Does anybody have a problem with Mr. Bear preparing that letter and sending it?
I'll abstain. I'll abstain.
I'll abstain as well. Might want to do a roll call.
You wanna do a roll call? Yeah. All right, anything else for new business?
I do not have anything further.
All right, move on to board reports, budget committee.
The Budget Committee met on January 4th, 2023, and recommends the following: adopting the proposed F-24 budget calendar as presented.
All right, coming from committee, it doesn't need a second. Is there any questions or discussion on the proposed budget calendar? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Cook?
Aye.
So approved.
Approval of the Apex liquidation, liquidated damages and completion incentives.
Again, coming from committee, it doesn't need a second. Is there any questions or discussion on that recommendation? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry? Aye. So approved.
Amended and appropriating $60,107.28 to account 2201-461270 forfeit asset expenditures and to account 11003-390168 revenue code.
Is there any questions or discussion on that recommendation? And just to clarify, that's the Commonwealth Attorney, correct?
That is Commonwealth Attorney's asset forfeiture funds.
Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Cook?
Aye.
Aye. So approved. Anything else from the Budget Committee?
That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Move on to the Board of Supervisors time. Mr. Terry?
I don't have anything at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Horny?
I don't believe I have anything at this time.
Mr. Smith?
I got a couple things, Mr. Chairman. First, Mr. Hankins, have we got any more movement on the part-time help at Max Bendis Fire Department?
We have 4 applications. We're trying to get more. Our PIO is pushing it on social media. We'll proceed to doing interviews for those 4, but 4 doesn't give us enough to be able to do all the shifts that we'll need to cover. So we need to get a deeper applicant pool.
Are we doing anything to try to generate those applicants?
We are. We have it out on our website. We have it on social media. We've asked, folks in the Fire and Rescue Committee or community, to share that. And we have some promising applicants, but we just need more.
Okay. The tractor club, the antique tractor club, it's got the Royal Retreat Fairgrounds. They reached out to me. I don't know if they've reached out to anybody else on the board, but I got a phone call from one of the gentlemen part of the club. They're looking for some help, whether it be help with their water bills, help with the upkeep of the grounds out there. I told them I didn't know if it'd speak for everybody, but I'd bring it before the board. So I don't know if we want to reach out to them or.
Who is the primary contact to them?
So Rodney Castle was one that reached out to me.
Mr. Castle, okay. I had a phone call today from an individual that was wanting to look at potential use and renting of that facility out there.
Was it the same one I talked to?
You probably did, yeah. So I told him I would figure out who for him to get in touch with. So if I can just confirm a phone number with you, I'll talk to him
Yeah, I
and
can
then
get
we
that to
can.
And we may want to reach out to Mr. Castle as well. I think they had a water leak over the cold weather that we had. So they may be looking for some.
Is that county or?
That's town of Royal
Is that
Retreat
town of
water.
Royal? Okay.
Yeah, that's-
Yeah.
And then the last thing I got, and I'll send an email, Mr. Byron, and copy you on it to Mr. Fowler, but the guardrail and lock gap in the curve there where Dale Suffin and them is, it's been torn down. That's all I have. I'm sure they know, so. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Ms. Lawson?
Yes, first, thank you to the Budget Committee for not putting presentations on St. Patrick's Day like you do every other year. Priorities. No, I'm just playing. But I did miss the last board meeting, and I tried to go back and watch it on YouTube, and I did not realize how horrible our recording system is. I don't know if that's something, if it's a simple fix. It's very muffled. And I mean, I know we have the microphones. I could hear everyone speaking, but the recording system is really hard to understand. So I know that, it's probably an aggravation to our citizens who try to watch it. So I'm not sure if that's something we need to kind of figure out and look into before we go into budget. Or something that we can you know, add, but that's all I have. Thank you.
Ms. Lawson. Mr. Burnett,
I have nothing with this contract.
Mr. Cook,
I know it's cold, but I was wondering, is there any update on Agee Park as to what's going on as far as fixing that place up?
The staff, the recreation staff, I wasn't able to attend last night, but staff met with some members of the rec commission. I don't think they had enough for a quorum, but presented presented the request for proposals that we received to try to get them to be involved and help make a recommendation to you all about what they think needs to happen with replacing that equipment. I don't have a report from that yet, so I'll be glad to forward that by email to you once I get an update.
Also, under rec, I went up to, the youth league basketball tournaments up at the, community center. And, there were some coaches up there that were kinda out of hand. And I don't know, I couldn't find anybody from the rec department there. I'm not saying they're not there when they're playing on both sides of the net and all, it's hard to see, but you got coaches and, you know, the one coach came over and was saying, you know, the one kid, the one coach was telling the kids on his team to take out another kid on another team because it's scornful. And apparently the judges or whatever, the referees in the center there heard it. I just think they need to tighten that up. I mean, if you got adults coaching kids to take out other kids and standing there and screaming at the referees, they need to have somebody from the rec department, somebody needs to be there that can step in and say, sir, you need to leave. I think there just needs to be a little more control. Basketball season's over, but I'm sure it'll come around in soccer or whatever. Obviously, the coaches aren't adult supervision because they're acting like kids, so maybe we need some adult supervision there to watch those games.
I'll check. When did you go up there? Do you know when it was?
God.
If not, that's fine. I'll talk, but it was when they were doing the final tournaments. I mean, that day they ended the season for the little kids. That's all I need to tell you. And I'll talk to Kevin about it. We work, typically at those games, we usually have representation town with, you'll have representation also, because it's a joint league between the both of us, but I'll do some follow-up with him and have them look at it.
And I know we have sent folks home because they received follow-up letters, over their conduct at the games, so.
From what I was told that day, the people that sit there in the center between the two teams at the table and keep the stats and all, I mean, they verified, yeah, that's what the coach, they heard him say it in the huddle. So, I mean, it's just, I just don't think you ought to be taking out kids in the third and fourth and fifth grade. I mean, that's
Not what we're there for.
not what they were there to teach. But needless to say, I'm still not happy with the Cox trailer park. I think, I mean, that's moving way too slow. Those people are still walking through human feces, and it's just not acceptable that we have that. I think we need to move forward on maybe condemning the place and moving trailers out of there. I mean, if they can't fix the problem, we need to shut it down. It's an issue.
The information I received back this afternoon was that, they did go to court, and a court date has been set for early February. So, it has, I don't know if paperwork has been served yet, but the tentative court date is early February.
Well, and I'll tell you, if it was me and I was walking through it every day going to my mailbox, early February seems like a lifetime. I mean,
I understand. I agree with you completely.
2023, and we can't take care of a simple problem like that. I mean, it's not a simple problem. It's just frustrating to think that, especially that little old lady out there walking through that stuff every day, going to her mailbox. Just bothers me.
was that enforcement action through the health department?
The health department it indicated to me last week they were working with the Commonwealth Attorney's Office on pressing charges. They sent me information yesterday or today to say we're going to the magistrate's office, and then they sent me a follow-up that they, had gone to the magistrate's office and they have a court date planned and such and such.
And what bothers me about that is, you know, he goes to court in February, and he's already been to court once, they give him 6 months to fix it. So, I mean, you're gonna next summer before anything's done, and then if he doesn't do it, what do? Take him back to court for contempt or something? And another thing, I mean, the problem's not getting fixed. That's the thing that bothers me the most, it's not getting fixed.
Makes sense, too. I mean, court-
That's all I've got.
The Ager Park, I talked to Mr. McRoberts again. He was asking about if we had any playground equipment that, I guess it's the Ivanhoe, is it the city please? They're still interested in anything that they can repurpose, when we make changes out there. Going back to what you were talking about, the fairgrounds, and retreat, I certainly, as a former member of the Fair Association, I certainly understand their predicament, but if they've got a leak, if they reach out to county retreat, they're really good about adjusting what it is. I know that's not a long-term solution, but, help them out in the short term. And one thing I did forget, I need to appoint a pro tem chairman, kind of third in command, and luckily you don't have to get 218 votes, so I will appoint Mr. Smith as pro tem. You're welcome. Anything else, Mr. Barrett?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Hankins, do you have anything else?
No, sir.
Ms. Collins? Mr. Farley? All right, hearing nothing else to come before the board, we'll be adjourned.